very warm welcome to this World Vision United webinar on today, Thursday, the 27th of May 2021. My name is Martin Campbell. I am the Programme Director for World Vision United, and I'm very pleased on today's webinar to be joined by our Product Owner, Helmut Lindell. Thanks for joining, Helmut, and by our Director of Customer Success, Ria George. I hope that we'll have time at the end of today's session to answer your questions if you're watching live. So please do use the chat function. Make sure that you're logged in order to lodge any questions that you'd like us to take a look at the end of the webinar, and we can get to those at the end. Do bear in mind there's about a 30-second delay between you posting the thing and us seeing it, so the earlier you post them, the better it is for us to have time to think about the best way to answer those. In our last webinar, we took a look at how World Vision United is implemented from a support office perspective, and we also got a sneak peek behind the curtain at one of the sites that was preparing to launch. This webinar is going to be a little bit different, and in fact from here on out our webinars are going to be a little bit different. Not only is today the anniversary, almost to the day, of our very first webinar that we did back in May 2020, and oh my goodness, doesn't that seem like a very, very long time ago indeed. But actually, as we've journeyed over that year, we've been talking about United as something that we're building. As of now, World Vision United 4 is live. It's in 2 markets. Both World Vision Spain and World Vision UK are now live on World Vision United 4. And it does look rather amazing. We start with big, vibrant images and a rich diversity of content here on the home page. The sponsorship sign-up experience then comes to life with embedded videos, rich community images, and maps. The new checkout process gives supporters a unified and streamlined experience with local tax information and local payment types, and it allows us to optimize the checkout flow based on user behavior right across the United community. Elsewhere on the site you can see our promise brought to life with our appeals, power claims, and engaging and compelling stories from across the partnership. We've already raised the profile of childhood rescue in preparation for delivering a distinctive and richer experience, and we've delivered a real breadth of content from countries all over the world. And United 4 doesn't just support direct fundraising from our supporters, it also provides rich opportunities to engage with churches and other partners, giving them what they need to encourage working with World Vision. And of course, all of this is optimized for the way the majority of our supporters engage with us on mobile devices with an intuitive touch interface. And for supporters visiting us on desktop, images are optimized to give a vibrant full screen experience. But beautiful although it is, looks aren't everything. United is a platform built to perform. The platform itself has been engineered to deliver the best possible user experience, implementing the very latest standards for speed and search engine optimization. Let's start with speed. This is the most visible element of performance for a supporter because it's the very first thing that a supporter experiences when they visit us. A visit to World Vision which starts with a long wait is not set up for success, and so at the start of the United 4 programme we benchmarked the whole sector in our launch markets and found that the performance of World Vision sites varied considerably. World Vision UK, for example, had one of the slowest websites in the sector, whilst World Vision US, ranking near the top, was still outperformed by Save the Children. World Vision United 3 performed pretty well, but given the importance of speed for users, we've selected speed as a core priority when we created United 4. Now that we're live, we can see results measured by real users on real browsers right across the markets where we're live. And we can see that this work has paid off. World Vision United 4 isn't just faster, it's the fastest site in the sector, according to Google's page speed analysis. But what about the real world user experience? Total page load times, so the speed that users experience when they download pages right across the site, for our visitors to our UK site, have improved by 59%. And in addition to that huge speed jump, our pages are now optimized to display content as early in the download cycle as possible, while some of the larger content is still downloading in the background. This is really important for our ever-growing number of mobile users. As well as speed, we've also thought very carefully about how the platform appears to search engines. Search engines are how most users find World Vision's web platforms. So we have the opportunity here to improve both the organic search performance, when users use the search box with keywords and then pick one of the results, and also paid advertising, where we pay for keywords or other kinds of advertising online. And that's a key way for recruiting new supporters in several of our key markets. We use an independent tool called SEMrush to audit the performance of our sites, and we're really pleased with the results. We've seen our search engine optimization scores jump right to the top of the charts with SEMrush, with an 89% improvement for the UK and a similarly impressive jump for Spain as well. Now, these measurements that we can take using calibrated tools and benchmarks are very precise and give us a really high degree of confidence. But of course, improvements like these are only of value if they translate to real improvements in the experience for supporters, and therefore into real performance improvements for our fundraising efforts. It's only been a few weeks since we've launched United 4 into these markets, and so we don't yet have enough data to talk about conversion rates and sign-ups. And added to that, since we launched, we've had a major appeal around COVID in India and the launch of some of our new product elements in Chosen. But whilst the picture may be a little too muddy just yet to look at conversion rates, there is some supporter behaviour that we can clearly see already. Using our RACE framework, the early stages of performance, R and A, measure how well we're able to reach supporters and how they interact with our content when they encounter us. With the improvements that we've delivered in speed and search engine optimization, we would expect that more users would find and visit our site using organic search, and that once they got there, they might spend more time with us and look at more content because the experience is faster and richer. And that's exactly what we have seen. Organic traffic from search engines has jumped considerably, nearly 50% higher. Now, it's very difficult to assign precise causality to this. We don't know how much of this jump in improvement has been caused by the technical platform, how much by the improvement in content, and how much by the changing external environment with a major appeal where we have very relevant content. But in a way, it doesn't really matter. All of those things are a focus of our results and drive a better user experience for users. And getting more site visits that quickly from Google is really impressive in such a short period after launch. So that's how many people come and visit us. What happens when they do? This is the real acid test. What is the experience like for users as measured by users' own behavior? Well, we're seeing that when users do find us, they're spending more time with us and they're looking at more pages. Again, we're not comparing apples with apples here. There are a number of changes that have been brought in before and after transition, the technical platform, the way that the content is laid out, and the external situations. But this does just show that even in the first few weeks after launch, we've been able to deliver a major boost to performance with United 4. And based on what we're already seeing, we are fully expecting that to translate through to the later stages of the race framework, notably conversion, as we work through and gather more data about that. Now that we're live, in future webinars, we're going to be taking a look at performance every month and updating you on the optimization that's going on and on new features that are being delivered to the platform and sharing what they're targeting, what number we're trying to move. So this look at numbers with a before and after view is a little bit of a one-off. In future webinars, we'll be very much looking at the trends once we're on the platform. And we're confident that being able to use the data that comes from the platform in real time, we'll be able to continue to improve those numbers quite significantly. And that's exactly what we set out to achieve with United ever since that first webinar, almost exactly a year ago. So we're really pleased with the results from the first few weeks in the field. But it's not just the platform itself where we've been looking to improve performance. By structuring United 4 around an in-house team of agile developers, we've set up a cadence of delivery where we deploy a new release of United every 2 weeks. These new releases deliver optimizations for speed and performance, fixes for any bugs which crop up on the system, and new features supporting new partnership programs and initiatives right across the partnership. In a moment, Helmut's going to take us through some of the larger improvements which have come out since our last webinar, but I just wanted to draw everyone's attention to the point that all of the features, optimizations, and changes that Helmut's talking about have been delivered to the live platform and to the users of Spain and UK's site in those 2-week cadences. So we're really using this as delivering on our commitment to continuous improvement, even within the first few weeks of those new sites going live. So let's find out what has gone live over those last few weeks and since we last shared the product with you on the webinar. And with that, I'll hand over to you, Helmut.
Well, thanks a lot, Martin. As you, I'm very pleased by seeing 2 offices live now, and by actually seeing data now of real users interacting with the site and using the things that we deliver. And just as you talked, I remember that we had some major improvements on page load time that only came out this week, where we lazy load some of the bigger assets on the page. And I just checked the average page load time, and it actually went down again by 55% in the last 2 days compared to the previous period before we went live with those. So we're still improving every 2 weeks with each of our new deployments. We're improving things and we're optimizing existing things, and we're building new things as well. So I just want to show some of the highlights from the last couple of weeks here. So let me just share my screen. And I just want to start off with a really small improvement to our header for blog articles. So those are some of the things where we say we go live with something that's really, really easy and straightforward, and then we add more things that will help us improve performance of the site over time. So one of the very small things that we added to our blog headers is that you can now see the date and the reading time of the blog when you visit the page. So this is something that I personally like as a little bit of a geeky thing as well. It actually calculates how much text you have on your blog page, and then it automatically tells you this is a 3-minute read based on Google standards of how long does it take the average person to read a text. So that's something of a smaller improvement that we make, and every 2 weeks a couple of those small improvements will just come through. And we'll make sure now that we have some, so I guess it was a little bit early for this one because it went out 2 weeks ago, just as we went live. So it's a little bit hard to say before and after this has actually helped us. But I'm very curious to see how blog pages actually perform in terms of scroll depth, in terms of bounce rate and so on, if we give users as much context as possible about what they're about to consume in terms of content. And one of the bigger things that we launched is actually chosen experience. And I want to give you as live as possible overview here. So that's why you can now see the actual World Vision UK live site and their chosen experience here. So here you can see the landing page, and this has actually been built by editors. There's no development needed at all to build those kinds of pages that actually look good on mobile. They look good on desktop as well. And just as a side note, this is not only UK content that you can see here, but there's also global content available. So if you look at our global master site that we source content from, you can see that there's also a child sponsorship, a chosen landing page here with content. And this is available to all countries out of the box in an automated translated version. So, and this is not only the landing page, but also the rest of the checkout funnel. So that's one of the things that comes out of the box with World Vision United 4, that once this kind of functionality is available and there's a content dependency, we can just push over that content to your country site, and you can see that in your local language automatically translated. You can just clean up the translations, and you can launch a lot more quickly than if you have to build all of this yourself, both from a functionality perspective and from a content perspective as well. So if I, as a supporter, would like to be chosen on United 4, I can just click Be Chosen, and I can configure my donation. So that's the bit where this is product specific, right? So this is the specific chosen journey, and I can say in the UK I want to pay £30 per month, for example. And what I can also do is I can upload my photo. So I can say choose a photo, and I don't know if you see that in the screen share, but I'll just upload one of my photos. And it says, yeah, okay, and I can select a different file if I want to as well. And I can just go to next. And now I'm actually at the second step of this journey, and that's where I get into the central checkout funnel. Right, so I think I talked about this in one of the previous webinars as well. Only the first step in our platform is product specific, where it's about chosen only. All the rest we didn't have to build again and again and again. And also you as content editors, you don't have to build it again and again and again for different products. But this bit you set up once, and it works across all journeys, and it works in a central way. And I still want to walk you through how the UK have implemented this. So you can see this. So the first bit is about contact information and consent. The second bit is about my personal details. So I can say I am Mr. Lindell. And the next bit is about my address. So I can add my address here. So let's just add a test address so that our UK colleagues are not confused. I did warn them before that I would do this. As I can say, I'm from Germany. That's another thing that we actually implemented, that depending on your country, you can now see the country that most of your supporters come from as a default here, so that they don't have to do anything. But if people come from abroad, like me from Germany now trying to donate on the UK website, they can still choose a different country. So that's still possible, but I think it removes one active step from editors, from supporters. Because I'm not a UK citizen, I don't care about taxes there. And now I can pay via the UK payment method. This will be whatever payment methods you have here. So let me just enter some test details here. My account name, of course, is my full name. And now I can actually donate. And I'm getting to a now product-specific thank you page again, where the UK actually tells their sponsors quite a lot of things. Your name and photo will be soon on their way, and so on. And you can see information that you have given, so all this kind of stuff. And you also receive an email that says, thank you for signing up, and so on. So that's the front end experience. That's what I do as a supporter. However, we have also built quite a bit of functionality into the back end for this. And I want to show that to you as well. So we have this admin area, which is, so for those of you who listen in from United 3 countries, that's a little bit different on United 4, because this is a separate area, separate from our content management system, which helps us keep the content management system really clean and only manage content there. Now the rest of the stuff is built in a different application, which makes our system a lot more flexible in the future. So you can see here now 2 different areas that you can do things in. So one of them is chosen sign up and one of them is chosen events. So let's have a look at chosen events first. And I'm still in the UK area here. So you can see that you can actually add registration events. And they have a couple of test events and 3 major events right now. One is just for online, and then there's 2 more. So a face-to-face event and a church event as well. So you can, as your office, you can add different events here, and you have URLs where you can specify with that URL, that's the event that somebody has signed up. So without knowing, I as a supporter just signed up for this web event. Right, and I think the main difference between a web event and an event that's face-to-face is that sometimes offices also take professional pictures of people at events. So you can also say, oh, this is an online event, so I will allow or I will require supporters to upload their own photos. Or the alternative is, if you have a face-to-face event, you can also upload photos after the fact, so you don't have to require people to actually upload events. So that's a bit where you can actually set up events here. So just to have a look at this, there's a couple of things that you can do here. So one, what is the time of the event? What's the publish date? What's the close date? What's the type of registration? Will there be a WV photo booth, is what we call it here? Yes or no, so this kind of stuff. And you can also specify the ID. So you can set this up in 2 minutes, and you can just start and use it. So that's a bit where you can set up events. You can not only set up registration events, but also choosing events and also reveal events. And one thing that we're currently still working on, so I think this will be scheduled either for this sprint or the next one, so sometime in the next couple of weeks, is an automation of the Horizon integration as well, so that the child IDs and the sponsor IDs will automatically be matched in Horizon. And so that's a bit about the event. I could show you this in the UK admin. I'm now going to switch to our test admin because I don't want to reveal any of the actual data of people who sign up for Chosen. So where I can also show you, so this is just our test environment, but other than that, it's all the same. So what you can also see is all the signups for your events. And because this is a non-production environment, it's a little bit slower. So you can see that only 3 people have signed up here, and you can actually download the field data as well. You can download your CRM data, and you can download photos as SIP fields as well. And another thing that you can do is manually approve photos, which is something that we believe should, in the long run, be done in a global system in Horizon, but it's currently not possible. So we built this in as a temporary fix here as well. So I just uploaded the same photo for myself as well earlier, so you can actually view this, and you can say, is this a good photo of Helmut? And it looks a little bit weird. So we could say, oh no, that's not cool. So let's replace that and use a different one. Or you could say, oh, this guy always looks like this, a little bit distorted, so I can improve it. So that's how this this photo approval works. So yeah, so that's just a bit of an overview of the functionality that we have for this in the back end, and how you can work with this. So that's all about chosen. The other development that I would like to share with you guys, and I just need to switch my screen here, is about designs and how we align with the rest of the partnership in terms of design systems. And I chose to have a meme for this in the beginning. So there are currently 3 projects, I would say, around the partnership regarding design systems. One of them is our own design system, where we have the World Vision United design system. Then World Vision Canada is currently building a pretty cool design system as well. And there's a global initiative with a working group and lots of stakeholders from across the partnership that is aiming to build a global design system in the future as well. Ideally, in the future, we will have one global parent design system and then potentially different child design systems. One of them might be World Vision United, one of them might be World Vision Canada, or one of them might be the global mobile app as well. So what we're trying to do, I could have actually found a meme with 3 different roads in the forest, and one of them would have been the mobile app design system as well, which is currently being started as well. So what we're trying to do in the next couple of weeks and months is try to converge those roads so that everybody still uses their own design system. But as we're building new things, we're trying to align more and more with those other 2 projects. And that's something that we can do gradually, where we don't have to do a lot of rework, but every time we build something new, we can just make sure that it aligns to whatever's going on in the partnership as well, so that ideally in the future, whenever World Vision Canada is designing something, we can grab it. Whenever we're designing something, World Vision Canada can grab it, and whoever is part of the global design system in the future can take part in this as well. So let's just look at this with some examples. So this is actually from the Canadian design system, a documentation about product tags. So if we're talking about a gift catalog, for example, and we have some tags here like featured or new, or we have some categories like education or clean water, how do we actually work with them? And how does it work from a theoretical perspective? So you can see that those are not designs yet. They are just mock-ups. And we can find a consistent way of how do we handle tags. And at the same time, in our design system, we also have something like tags. So for teasers, for example, right now we can say this is a new teaser, right? So if we find a way to use those tags in a consistent way and to have documentation about this, and we are building out the gift shop in the future, so we don't have a gift shop in World Vision United 4 yet. As we're building this out, we can just grab this documentation and we can say, whatever's best practice in here, we're going to just grab it, and it will be a lot faster for us to develop it. And then when we have live data about this, we can test it and we can see what actually works and what doesn't, and we can feed that back into the design system, and will be a lot easier for other stakeholders in the partnership to grab those optimizations and to make the changes on their own platforms. So that's the first bit. The second bit is the spacing. So you can see that there's this is currently the Canadian spacing, and this is currently our spacing. It looks a little bit different just because we use different ways of displaying it, but in reality, it's only a couple of pixels of is our margins here 80 pixels or 96 pixels, for example. So and this actually makes lots of difference when you're building components, because your components will have different sizes all over the place. So by aligning the spacing or the responsive layout grid, which is not a lot of work if you're using a design system already, you can actually have lots of commonality gained, and you can reuse components from either system a lot more easily. So that's why we embarked on 3 alignment steps now, and they're not very big steps, but they make, so from an effort perspective, but they still make a large difference. So one of them is colors, to match up colors. The second one is spacing, and I'm talking about horizontal spacing here, so the layout grid, and the third one is breakpoints. So do we all say, let's agree that we're breaking at 1024 pixels, for example, and we're not breaking at 1000 1,366 instead, or something like this. And we've actually already implemented colors. So the new color system is live. Most people probably won't know it. It's just that blue is a little bit different than it was before. Our green success is a little bit different. The main benefits that we get from this is that it's a lot more accessible now. So all of the right-hand side colors here. So that's just I just copy pasted our colors, the colors that are currently used by World Vision Canada. So it won't make a lot of difference. Most people won't even notice it, but for people with visual impairments, it will be a little bit easier for them to interact with our site. And of course, all this stuff, now that we're live, whenever we're making changes, we can test, does it actually negatively affect anything? If we see other benefits, or does it positively affect things if that's our measure stick, so to say. We're currently, so in the last sprint, we actually tackled spacing, and the breakpoints is something that we can do gradually. So we're about ready to now align with whatever is going on in the rest of the partnership, and we can benefit a lot from building components a lot more easily, a lot faster, and at the same time we can also share back what we are doing to the rest of the partnership a lot better. And in the end, I think this will save us a lot of money in designing and in coding. It will increase our speed to market a lot. And it will also increase the consistency across the partnership if the other stakeholders also decide to embark on this journey and to use what will be the global design system. So that's the second major thing that I wanted to share with you guys that we worked on in terms of development in the past couple of weeks. If you have any questions to any of this, I'm happy to answer some questions later as well. Just put them into the chat. But for now, let me hand over to Ria for the next topic of our webinar.
Thanks very much, Helmut. Fantastic work showcased there on the new chosen functionality, as well as on the new design system. This is just a brief section from me to share an update on offices that are waiting to join the United For program or working through the onboarding processes towards launch. I'll start with a recap of our onboarding approach in FY21 and then lead into some factors driving the change for next year, FY22. As you know, we launched United For the platform in October last year, and over the course of the year, we've onboarded offices each quarter, with each quarter corresponding to a respective cohort. We also shared a high-level product roadmap just before launch in September last year, outlining the functionality that would be developed on the platform each quarter. So the idea behind this was so that onboarding offices could self-select themselves into these quarterly cohorts based on the functionality that they had on their current website for a smooth transition to the new platform and the launch of the website. Accordingly, we had offices such as UK, South Africa, and Spain join in cohort 1, Italy, Ireland, and a few others join in cohort 2, and so on. So these offices could use the file exchange method for data transfer from their website to their CRM, use the CMS features and the content provided to build their website, accept payments through IBAN and credit cards through the integrations with global payment gateways that were on the platform, such as Stripe, PayPal, and PaySafe. For South Africa, we ran into the typical challenge of integrating local requirements on a global platform. Working with a local payment gateway in South Africa was an external dependency that took several months for just the office before we could even commence any development work. This instance and similar conversations with other offices led to the decision by United For to use Stripe as a default payment gateway for credit cards and debit cards in all countries where Stripe was available, as Stripe offers a world-class set of features that we need importantly, subscription management and self-services. So if Stripe is not available, we will evaluate the feasibility of integrating with a local payment gateway. Though subscription management would need to be done through your CRM. Integrating with each local payment gateway requires significant amount of incremental work from the entire United team to capture documentation and front-end specifications, make effort estimates, draw up the architecture, develop the proof of concept, and if the proof of concept is successful, then develop the subsequent work required as well. So you can see that when there is work that requires a proof of concept, it is quite difficult to estimate timelines for delivery, as by its very nature, there is an element of uncertainty in a proof of concept or a POC. There are other instances of integrating office-specific requirements as well that can need significant work too, such as new CRM systems. So going into FY22, we are changing our approach to onboarding to one that is based on readiness of an office to launch with features available on the platform at the start of onboarding. This was also articulated in the participation agreement version 2.0 that we shared with all the offices in March this year. We think this approach will enable offices that can launch with available features to fast track their new website launch. So looking at the slide here, you can see the current onboarding status of offices. Starting on the left with offices who are engaged with us, but who haven't yet started the process of coming on board. You can see that once we cross the starting line and they sign up the participation agreement, we have two tracks running in parallel. The next group of offices are able to start their training and work on their content, but are also dependent for their launch on delivery of features on our product roadmap. In the case of these countries, it's API integration with their CRM, POCs for payment gateways, and the My World Vision portal. So work on these features is underway now, and once that is complete, they'll move to the next stage where all the technology is ready and it's purely content which needs to be finalized in order to be scheduled for launch. Once content and technology are both in place, launch can be scheduled as it is for Ireland, which is now ready to schedule their launch at the end of June. So offices that are unable to launch with existing features will need to take cognizance of the fact that they can onboard, but will need to wait till the features are developed and released before we can schedule launch dates. It's quite important that this message is shared with stakeholders at your offices so that website launch plans have the necessary contingency built in and campaigns are planned accordingly. Our objective is to be able to move all United 3 offices across United 4 this financial year. And again, that's critical because the vendor supporting United 3 has gone out of business earlier this year. This means that we're not able to offer the level of support that is needed on United 3, and we're not able to launch any new features or partnership standards on United 3. So while we are maintaining support for United 3, it's critical that we move offices to a supported platform, which is United 4, as soon as possible. So I'm hoping that this gives you a clear picture of where we are, the rationale behind the way forward, and greater flexibility in engaging with United 4 so that you're able to deliver the performance improvements that Martin talked about, to support us in your office. I know I've shared this with each onboarding office individually, and offices have been very supportive, but we just wanted to use this webinar to share this message more widely too. Thanks, that's all from me. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you, Ria, and thanks, Helmut, for that look at the detail. It's quite noticeable just how much is changing now that we are in the cadence of launching. We're launching at the moment one site each month. We're expecting that to accelerate as those new features come on board, as Ria was talking about, and also seeing those optimizations coming up every 2 weeks. The pace of change has really improved and increased across the platform. So as well as the further work that we've talked about on the sort of coming soon aspects of what you've seen so far in the webinar, I do want to invite you to participate in something else as well. As we approach the end of year one and the end of the roadmap that we talked that Ria mentioned just then, we've already started to look ahead at what will be the most important features, capability and services that can be delivered in the future, moving into next financial year. If you've been working with the DMA in Europe, you'll already have gone through some prioritization of United features in the use case analysis work that you've done over the last month or so. And that's something that we're going to be opening up to the whole United community to be able to contribute both at a detailed level and at a high level to determine what are our strategic priorities and what's going to be the most important things for us to get onto the platform to improve performance. So right now we're developing the process by which we'll do that across the United family. So watch this space. We'll be talking on this webinar and directly with your office through your main contacts to invite you to participate in that and ensure that everybody has a voice and has the opportunity to participate and understand where the roadmap is headed. As we move into FY22 and we've delivered our core features, our core integrations and our core partnership standards, we'll be in a position to use that agility of our 2-week planning cycle to very quickly bring new things to market. And so the speed of engagement is going to step up considerably. So I'll look forward to picking that up with you and of course sharing all the latest news on the next webinar. But before we finish today, I see we've got a couple of questions that have come in already in the chat, which I do want to give us a chance to answer. And if you also have a question about anything that's been said today or anything to do with United, do take the opportunity right now to pop that question into chat so that we can answer that as best we can. So let's start with the question from World Vision Netherlands, and I see they've helpfully tagged it's a question for you, Helmut, so I don't have to be the person who directs that to you. Can you explain why you chose to give the form several different steps? Is it best practice, and is it possible to adjust this form to fewer steps in the future? Helmut.
Sure, thanks a lot for this question. I know we've talked about this in one of our town halls before as well. So generally it is good practice to ask as little of the supporter as possible, I would say. So where we want to move towards is to get new donors and new sponsors to sign up as quickly as possible. However, we're currently working from a baseline where we still have to ask quite a couple of things from the supporter, and they have to give quite a bit of information. In that case, what we currently see as best practice in other digital leaders is to keep the cognitive load at each point in time as low as possible. So to ask for one specific thing, which is, for example, please tell us who you are, please tell us where you live. Please tell us how we can contact you, and so on, at one point in time, which is why we have split the checkout in those different steps. In addition to that, it helps us in our analytics quite a bit to actually see where do we lose supporters. So let me just share my screen here. In analytics, you can see, for example, for the UK now, and I'll show the same thing for Spain in a bit as well, a checkout behavior analysis. So you can see all the different steps here: account info, personal info, address info, tax info, and payment info. And what you can see here is that after the first step, quite a couple of people actually abandon the checkout, 27%. And then after that, it actually is not that bad. After that, we only lose single digits. We hardly lose anybody in tax info, which is kind of makes sense because it's just one optional checkbox. We lose more people in personal info than we lose in address info, for example, which I think really speaks to a good job in address info, because address is always a little bit tricky to implement. And you can actually see if you want to improve something, you need to take a look at the first step, there's, I guess, two reasons. First, the first reason might be that this is the first time they actually get into the checkout and they realize, oh, now it gets serious, so I better leave. And the other thing is that there might also be UX issues that we need to think of. And then there's the last step as well, where you can see after the payment step, we also lose quite a couple of people, which also kind of makes sense because now it really, really gets serious. But it also helps us check what improvements to payment methods, what improvements to payment UX and so on actually help us reduce the drop-off rate at this stage. So we can actually have a very granular look at how people move through the funnel. And we can also compare this across countries. So if you look, now we've seen World Vision UK, if you look at Spain, they actually have a lot higher drop-off rate in the first on the first step. And I just want to be mindful that those are really low numbers, right? So it's actually 40 people who have abandoned checkout in the first step. But we can already see what is the UK doing differently from World Vision Spain. So we could see, for example, here in World Vision Spain, so that's the first step for them. They say, please give us your email, please give us your phone number. Whereas World Vision UK says, please give us your email, please give us your phone number, but your phone number is optional, right? So I, as a supporter, know directly from the start, oh, they only want my email address. Whereas here, potentially, I might think, oh, they want my phone number and my email address. I'm not going to share my phone number, so I'm going to abandon. That's just now off based on the question that was raised in the chat, just one ad hoc stab at an explanation, right? So we need to look into this in more detail. But the benefit is that by having such a granular checkout and having it across all products as well, we get really high numbers in the checkout funnel here, and we can actually get into optimization a lot more quickly than we could if we did this per product, or if we did it in only one page where we don't know what's happening, we don't know why people drop off. So that's just a part of the explanation of why we're doing it that way.
Fantastic, thanks, Helmut. And just to sort of complete that answer, we are looking to minimize the number of questions we ask. And so part of that is about working with offices around their data standards to understand what is an acceptable minimum, because we do have a competing set of priorities where offices feel that if I don't select the data in the first time I talk to the user, I may never get a chance to get it. But of course, the more data we ask for, the lower the overall conversion rate. So what we would be planning to do is to run some experiments with offices that says, okay, if we could run an experiment to just gather this data, could we see, actually, if we can halve the number of questions we ask, could we see how much of an improvement that gives us? Now, it may be that that doesn't give us any improvement at all, because that's not a barrier for users. Or it may be that by halving the number of questions we ask, we may double the number of people who sign up for our products and become supporters, in which case we might well say, based on that data, there's sufficient evidence to say that's more worthwhile than this additional data, and we could actually change the way that we handle data in an office. So the objective for us is to maximize the throughput of that. If it turns out that smaller number of pages with more questions on them is better, we will go there. If it turns out that taking questions off in order to optimize the experience, then that's where we'll go. But as Helmut said, we have to be driven by the data on this, and we've been able to start gathering that data already. So we're really interested to see what that tells us. And by the way, we do already have some development in the schedule to address that first stage of sign up on the checkout. So that's already been identified and will be acted upon over the next couple of releases. So that was our first question, and I see we've got another one there just around local wallets. So we've got a question for Indonesia here. Have you been able to find a solution for local e-wallets such as what we have here in World Vision Indonesia? Helmut, could I forward that one to you as well? Is that all right? Just to talk about how we're dealing with that.
Yeah, sure. So I think Ria touched on that earlier in this webinar as well, right? I would say if you have local e-wallets and local payment providers in your country and you don't offer Stripe or your country or Stripe is not available in your country, then just talk to Ria about it. Maybe you have already done so for Indonesia, and we'll schedule it. The fastest way, if Stripe is available in your country, is always to go with Stripe, because it's already available and you can benefit from all the extensions that we'll do in the future. If Stripe is not available in your country yet, then just talk to Ria and we'll get it scheduled in. Just knowing that this will be for one-off donations only. I don't know how wallets work in Indonesia, but all of those local payment provider integrations will be for one-off donations, not for subscriptions.
Yeah, I think that's a really important, actually, just to draw out. And Ria, you covered this, but let's just draw attention to it. When it comes to taking payment in a particular country, there are two elements to that challenge. The first is, can we find a vendor that will enable us to take a credit card transaction? So if Stripe is available and we already have Stripe, then the answer is yes. But even if we can't, then we may find another vendor locally that will allow us to take a credit card donation. But there's a second element to the problem as well, and that challenge comes from the fact that we have to not just take a credit card payment once, but we have to do so regularly on a monthly or a periodic basis over a long period of time. Now, that opens up quite a lot of additional requirements. We need to be able to, for example, have the user change that payment method to update it or to cancel it. We need to be able to have someone in the office, in a local office, change that if a supporter phones up and makes a change. We need to be really confident that the system that's driving that is going to regularly take that payment every month when it's supposed to. And we also need to be able to produce a full audit report that shows which payments were taken, for what reason, and if there were any problems, how were they dealt with. Now, that's a much bigger challenge than simply taking a credit card donation. So the way that challenge is routinely done, the way that which you would architect that, is to say there is one way of doing regular donations for an office. So for example, in the UK, the local CRM takes in all of the payment mechanisms, and you saw it earlier, direct debits. It gathers the data, and the local CRM manages the ability for a user to be able to change their data, the ability for someone in Milton Keynes to be able to update that data from a phone call, and the ability to provide an audit report and make sure that payments are taken. Now, that's not a set of functionality that we want to create again in United, because United only handles online transactions. And of course, every office that deals with regular transactions has transactions from other channels as well. So if we can find a way to feed the data, capture the appropriate payment data, and feed it across into your local CRM, then that will enable you to go live with that vendor, as we have with the UK. The UK is not using Stripe, it's using a one-off integration because the local CRM can handle that. So if that's a requirement for your office, then let's start that conversation off, as we said earlier, speak to Ria and see how we can make that work. But if you don't have a regular payment system at the moment, then Stripe is the option that we can offer. And if Stripe is not available, we'll have to look at providing something that can handle regular payments for your entire operation, not just your online operation. And that may well be the partnership-wide global CRM program, which is coming down the pipes as well. So we'll talk about that in a later webinar as well, as we align our roadmaps with the global CRM. Now, those are the questions that I can see so far in chat. I'm going to give it one more minute to see if anybody else wants to post anything, but we are running up to the top of our hour, and so I can actually give you a couple of minutes back if we don't see anything coming through on the chat. No, it all looks pretty quiet. So I think we'll call it a day there. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you in particular to Helmut, to Ria for presenting with me today. And thank you to you for joining and being able to catch up with us and share your questions on United. In our next webinar, we will of course be bringing you the very latest results, showing you the newest capabilities of United and talking more about how we can accelerate the engagement with the United team and your support office to be able to bring the product to life in your market. And of course, we'll also come back to that question of how you can engage to steer our future roadmap. So we'll come back to all of that in our next webinar. Until then, I wish you a very good weekend. If you're here in the UK, I hope you have a lovely spring bank holiday and enjoy your sunshine. And wherever you are in the world, be safe, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much.